to go ahead and hit go live now. You're ready.
Thank you. I'd like to call this organizational meeting to order, January 14th. If we could stand, we'll have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Lord, we thank you for your many blessings. We ask you for comfort and strength for the family, friends, and school community of Kurt Baker. We thank you for his life and his service in our district. We ask for your comfort and strength for others who have lost loved ones and friends. Please place your healing hands on those who are ill and bless the hands and hearts of all in the medical field. We ask that you bless our staff and students abundantly. Be with us in our discussions and guide us in the decisions we make. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Connie, could we have roll call?
Mrs. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Gust,
Here.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Here.
Mrs. Smith. Here. Mr. Winkler.
Here.
Now we need to elect a president. Nominations are now open for president. Are there any nominations for president?
Ron Winkler, I nominate.
Ron Winkler. Do you accept?
Do you accept, Ronnie?
Yes.
Are there any additional nominations? Seeing no additional nominations, I would entertain a motion to close nominations and cast on unanimous a ballot.
Second.
Jerry, did you make that motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, moved.
Excuse me?
So moved.
I second.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Gust?
One moment, they lost their audio.
Yes, it looks like they're muted on my screen.
They lost their audio on their phone. Corey's calling them back in.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are good. Can you turn turn it up some. Yeah, oh yeah. Turn it sideways, maybe, where she can hear it better. Okay, Madam President, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I said that, so moved on that motion, and we voted, so,
I think.
Okay, so Mr. Gust,
yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Abstain.
Connie, do you want to do the oath of office now?
You have to, the next motion we have to do is elect. That was to close the nomination, right?
I actually made a motion to, since there was only one nomination, to entertain a motion to close nominations and cast a unanimous ballot.
Okay, I will, I have on here Jerry Gust nominated Ron Winkler as board president, and I'll just say, he accepted. That's all we'll do then. Okay. All right, let's do the oath.
Here, Ronnie.
Okay, I have a little Bible.
Okay, Ronnie's got one too here.
Okay. Okay, Ronnie, you ready?
Yes.
Do you, Ron Winkler, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as President of the Board of Education in and for the Switzerland of Ohio Local School District, Monroe County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations, Ron.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Would you like to take over?
No, go ahead. You're doing a good job.
Okay, now we have election of vice president. Nominations.
Have Bunberger, Anderson. He's second on that.
No, you don't need a second.
Are there any other nominations for vice president?
I'll get you off the hook, Bev. Nominate Greg.
Okay, we have a nomination for Greg. Do we have any other nominations? We have a nomination to close, or a motion to close nominations.
Did you accept?
So moved.
Did they accept, Ronnie?
Yeah, they accepted.
Okay.
Didn't you?
Did Greg accept or Bev accept?
Greg, did you accept?
Yes.
Bev, you accepted?
Yes. So I need a motion to close nominations.
So move.
Second,
I'll second it.
Let me make some notes here. Okay, who was my first?
Jerry made a motion to close nominations and Ron seconded.
Okay, got it. Okay, voting is open.
How are we doing that, Ronnie? Voting on.
Voting to close the nomination.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, so now I believe we vote all, Connie, can you put that in there in your computer for a vote for, I guess, Beverly Baumberger Anderson, and then a second one for Greg Shoemaker? I believe
Yes.
that's how we do it, correct?
Yes, motion to, okay, so the first motion that I have typed is motion to elect Bev Anderson as vice president. So will you vote on that first?
Is that ready to, it didn't pop up yet.
It won't until I have motions.
Oh,
Yes, yeah, so moved.
is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, now voting is open. You should see your, the motion now. Mr. Gust,
Yes,
Mr. Winkler,
Abstain?
Mrs. Anderson,
Abstain.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
No.
Now we need a motion to vote for Greg Shoemaker for vice president.
Okay, let me make
Motion.
notes.
Sarah, did you make that motion?
Yeah.
I will second whenever you get to that point, Connie.
Okay. Okay, voting is open. Motion to elect Greg Shoemaker as board vice president. Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
same.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler,
Abstain?
Congratulations, Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Connie, when you're ready, you can
oh, okay.
do the oath of office.
Let me make sure these motions saved real quick.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, Greg, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. I got a bunch of papers rolling around here. Hold on just a minute. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's the Bible. Do you, Greg Shoemaker, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as Vice President of the Board of Education in and for the Switzerland of Ohio Local School District, Monroe County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Greg.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to a resolution of the board member compensation and expenses.
I'll make a motion, we keep it the same as last year.
I second.
Any discussion?
Okay, so just to be clear, you're making a motion to keep it at $125 per meeting for a maximum of 2 meetings per month. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me make notes in here. Okay, voting is open. Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Okay, number 8, we need to set the time, date, and place of regular meetings. Is the second Thursday work for everyone? Does someone have a different suggestion?
It works for me. Jerry?
I'd like to clarify if we can change the length of the meeting though. Is there some way we can, have a maximum time to hold the meeting? Like right now, the governor's got us shutting down at 10 o'clock at night, but yet we run meetings from 1 to 2 in the morning. So can we put a maximum length on how long the meeting could go and then come back the next night if it goes over?
Jerry, I had that written down, but I think we're going to have a separate motion on that. Am I
Okay.
correct? Everyone?
I believe probably so, because this is just setting the time, but yeah,
Yeah.
I can agree with Jerry.
I did too. I had it written down here. So I'd like to make a motion, we have our meetings at 6 o'clock on the second Thursday of the month at central office, unless we state otherwise.
I second.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, number 9, the appointment of board member to serve as the 2021 OSDA Legislative Liaison and Student Achievement Liaison. Do we have any volunteers?
Bev, did
I
we do that
nominate
before?
Bev Bumberger Anderson.
Yeah, I do it. If I need help, I'll call on the rest of you to help me out. Sometimes we need to contact our legislators, so. If no one else wants to volunteer, I will do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
Appointment of the 2021 Finance Committee.
Bev, weren't you and Sarah on it last year?
Yes, we were. Would anyone else like to be on it this year?
Nope, I didn't.
No.
No. It's up to Greg.
It makes no difference to me. If you guys are comfortable doing what you're doing, if you want me to do it, I can help out.
I think we can only put two. I think we can only put two on, Greg, so if,
We have an alternate.
we can have him as the alternate?
Yeah.
Be glad to not be part of that committee. Greg can have my place.
Okay, do you want to be alternate then, sir?
No, if Greg's willing, then I'm good with him being on there.
He was
Okay,
asking if you wanted to be alternate.
Oh, alternate, sorry, you blanked out. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, we got them, thanks.
I'm just making notes.
Mhm.
Okay, a resolution approving the treasurer's duties and responsibilities, and they are attached.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second, Greg.
Thank you.
Open. Jerry, is your box popping up?
You voting there?
No, mine ain't
It
coming
didn't
up.
come up. His,
How do you want to vote?
I got it.
he got it finally.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes,
Mr. Gust?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes,
a resolution for approval of superintendent as purchasing agent to approve purchases within the appropriated amounts up to $25,000 per Ohio Revised Code.
I do have a problem with this one. This is
Go ahead,
wrong.
Ron. Go ahead.
I do have a problem with this one. If you see what happened last year, all the trouble we had with it, I don't agree with this. Same thing's gonna happen again.
So what's the solution?
So is there a lower amount that you would suggest or a way to resolve your concern?
Yeah, I think we got nickel and dimed over this one.
Are you talking about different checks totaling more than that
Yes.
amount? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
So can we address that policy to resolve that issue?
I don't know, Bev, I'm just, when, I went and looked at the purchase orders and everything, and I thought sure we ought to vote on that when we, all these consultant fees and all that, and I seen Mr. Darby has it, he requested, and he has it in there too, and, over expenditures, and I'd agreed a long time ago with this $25,000, not letting them have it. But you guys tell me.
Or would you
What's your-
propose a smaller amount?
Are you saying they're abusing the system?
Yeah, I'm saying you're abusing this.
Okay, we're
Someone is.
abusing the system, so we gotta come up with a system. And then, I would say whoever's abusing the system, then we're gonna have to have a meeting with them and do some disciplinary action.
Yeah.
But we gotta we gotta make some kind of number. Now, you know, we gotta resolve it some way.
otherwise you'll have to bring everything to us, right? I mean, if we
Yeah,
don't allow him in.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any other solution to that. If you're questioning any purchases, then every purchase would have to be brought to the board.
Yeah, that's what's tough on you. You know, they gotta,
Well, I'm
you
just
gotta have a
saying,
little leeway there for some kind of purchase.
I'm just saying, it has been brought to the board.
Well, can you put specifics on it, like certain things for the districts that are no brainers, like if it comes to a heating issue, or, but if it's something
not saying-
outside the scope
I'm
of,
saying
like you said,
Outside,
outside.
that's called emergency there. But I think, why couldn't we look into changing the policy that if it's a combined total of the year, then they have to get board approval? Can we look into changing policy?
I think you're referring to 6320, and it has there's a long policy, but part of it is limitations. And if you want to, I can read that. All purchases that are within the amount contained in the function of the appropriation and were originally contemplated in the budgeting process may be made upon authorization of the superintendent unless the contemplated purchase is for more than 25,000, in which case prior approval is required from the board. Then it goes on in that limitation to state the treasurer is authorized to adjust appropriations within a fund in order to make necessary purchases and shall report such modifications at the following regular board meeting. So I think the issue is with the first part. So
Bev, what was that policy?
6320, and that part is under limitations. So because there's several things that could fall under that. Like Ron mentioned, the consultants. I know we have some consultants that we have contracts with. And then we have other ones that we don't have a contract with. So I think if we address, I don't know, we could lower that limit, and then we could always revisit that policy later if we feel we need to increase it in the future, I would think, correct?
And I think we gotta make it mandatory that he signs off on them, nobody else. If he's the ones requesting the money, then his signature should be on it. And if you look at him, he's not signing off on them.
Well, if it says designee,
Well, that's what I'm saying. We want to make it mandatory that he should be signing off on it. Where, in this case, if Andy's the pro temper, then he would have to if Rob couldn't.
Yeah, I don't, it doesn't say or designee. It says authorization of the superintendent.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So he should be signing off on it. They shouldn't be paid without his signature. We've got hundreds of them that's not signed by Rob.
And you're using the rubber stamp. Lower the amount.
I think we need to have an executive on this. I think we can move on, and we need to have an executive on this. Either call a special meeting or something and talk about this. We can't sit here all night and go back and forth. I think we need to.
Well, I mean, if someone makes a motion, yeah.
We can table it and come back to it at the next, call a special meeting or something, because there's a lot of stuff that's got to be looked into here. What's it, anybody else's opinion? I mean, we
I
can sit here
agree.
and
I agree. We need to look into it further.
have before we okay that.
But I think we have to make a resolution tonight, or else we're going to have to approve all the purchases. So, what does, I mean, I'll just make a motion for the 25,000, and we can address the other concerns in the policy. And then if that passes, we'll move forward with that. If not, someone else can make another motion.
Yeah, I agree, Bev. I think that leave it as is with the revisit and Jerry, as far as that goes, that's such a can of worms as far as purchasing goes, because if we approve something in a contract as a consultant for a specific amount, that's going to vary. And I'm not really sure that the superintendent has to sign off on everything that goes out when it's just a payroll type situation. So that's where I'm a little bit confused about how many different things are we going to be dealing with?
That's what I'm
With
saying.
that.
We revisit and come up with a solution. We just can't sit here all night and bicker and stuff. We're gonna have to come up with a number thing, and then I'm just saying this is some things we can look at. I don't care how but right now, I don't think it's working. And
Okay, so what's your suggestion on the amount that we can have a resolution so we can move on this?
that 25 is fine with me, but then we gotta go back and look at policy and see if we can revisit it and see what else we can do to make sure things is getting what you call like more or less passed through, and it's going over the $25,000 limit. I mean, this one, I believe it's over 128,000 this year, and that same vendor, we didn't approve him at the October meeting, and it felt that we had a motion on the floor to approve him, and it never got a second. So something's got to be looked into here. You're talking a lot of money here, Greg. We're talking here, and without board approval, you know, it seems awful fishy to me that we're paying that many different things. You know, to me, there's got to be some. I know it's not against the law. I checked into it, but if you take a building, you can't split it. And this one vendor is working for the whole district, and he keeps turning all these bills in. Well, to me, then he'd have to be approved, and he'd have to be, voted on the board to use him. To me, it looks like they're abusing the system, is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and
So
I
to
think
go-
we need clarification from legal counsel,
Yes.
because like we buy materials from vendors and we spend more than that, and we don't individually approve them. So we need
Right.
some clarification from legal counsel too.
But are they approved vendors?
So I made a motion for,
I'll
Bev,
second
are they-
your motion, Bev.
There's a
Are
motion,
they
I made a
approved
motion.
vendors on?
there's a motion on the floor.
I second, Connie.
Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson,
yes,
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler,
No,
motion passed. I'm not very good at this motion pass thing. I'm sorry, it's my first.
Fine.
Approval to OSBA membership for January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, and to participate in OSBA Legal Assistance Fund, January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
So
I
moved.
I move to continue.
Jerry and Sarah.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes,
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
yes,
approval to grant authority to the superintendent and treasurer to accept retirements and resignations on behalf of the Board of Education.
so move.
Second.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker, Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Discussion of board fund. It's in our bylaws that we discussed this at the organizational meeting. And as you can see in the notes, there's a fund set aside for professional meetings, advertising, Board of Education supplies and subscriptions. I don't believe we have to make a motion or anything, but does anyone have any discussion on it? Seeing none, I need a motion to adjourn. Was there something?
No.
I make a
You have a
motion,
motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Connie, we need to go out and then once you open up the second meeting, join it. Is that correct?
Yes. I will go out and invite you into the next one.
Ron, you can take over.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Connie, do we leave the meeting?
No, just stay where you're at, and then through board docs, I'll send you another link for the new meeting.
Okay.
So we can go back out to the main menu on board docs where we see all of our meetings.
Yes, you should be
And
able
then it'll
to,
show.
and then, yes.
Meetings, Mr. President.
How many years ago?
Are you gonna bring that up tonight? or-
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
How long is it gonna be for a call meeting?
Okay, you guys should be getting an invitation or a link for the regular meeting.
I'd have to refresh.
I got it, Connie.
Okay. Bev, Sarah, did you guys get your link? Or your,
Yes, I'm joined.
okay.
Thanks.
Ronnie, Jerry, or did you get the,
Yes, I did.
okay.
Did you, Jerry?
Yeah, I'm back on.
Oh,
I just
okay, yeah, I'm
refreshed
on.
and it come back on.
So Tess, are you there? Can you hear me? Are we still good on YouTube? I don't know. It says live.
Barney, you want me to go check with Tess?
Yeah, I have you guys on live on YouTube right now. I can't end that stream.
Okay,
I have to leave it in the same stream. So
okay. I think we're ready anyways, aren't we?
yeah, it's already been live on YouTube.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ready, Connie?
I'm ready.
I'd like to call this meeting to order and have roll call, please.
Mrs. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Gust,
Here.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Here.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Here. Let's rise for invocation. Stay standing for pledge allegiance, please. Dear Father, we come before you tonight to conduct the business of Switzerland High Local School District. Please give us your hand and help us make the best decisions for the school districts. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty, and justice. Now we're down to approval of the agenda. Is there any amendments or anything?
Yeah, and,
Go ahead.
can we add an executive session for personnel, or do I need to go through the whole dispensing of the rules and everything, or?
We can do that. Just amend it.
Okay, so hold on just a minute. Let me make notes here. For what reason, Sarah?
Personnel, she said.
Okay,
Am I correct, Sarah? You said personnel?
Yes, sir, personnel.
okay, I have that noted.
All right. I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, motion carried. Brings us down to superintendent's report.
So I want to thank everybody for all that you've done over the past month, and welcome everyone to the new year 2021. At this time, I don't have many updates, or really any updates, but what I wanted to do was bring Jennifer Bohatch and Brad Lanier on, because there's a lot of good things that are happening in Switzerland, and they have created a presentation highlighting many of the great things that are happening in each of the buildings. They're also going to talk about some of the challenges as well, and some of the next steps that the district will be taking to reach even higher plateaus. And so I'm going to turn it over at this point to Jennifer and Brad.
Well, hey everybody, Brad Lanier, Director of Teaching and Learning at the Ohio Valley ESC. Thank you for having us here today. It's always nice getting to talk about some good news.
So we typically get a state report card with data from all of the previous years' testing scores and graduation rates and et cetera. But with the absence of spring testing this year, not all of that information was complete. But tonight we're going to share with you the information that was available to us and let you know where the district landed in that report that came out. So I got to learn how to control my screen at the same time presenting. So the first thing you're going to see is that our 2020 graduation rates for 4-year and 5-year were at 89.1% and 91.9% respectively. Both of those are a letter grade of B. So that was a really good achievement. 4-year would mean those students that started in the same cohort and graduated in 4 years. The 5-year would be the kids that started in the same year but took an extra year to reach their graduation.
The second strength that we're going to talk about is also one of the 6 components on the Ohio report card that receives letter grades every year except for this one. So the improving at-risk K-3 readers component growth has been significant. The year before on the report card, Switzerland of Ohio earned a D. This year, using the same grading scale. Now the state, they just reported numbers. They didn't put an actual letter grade on, as the legislature would not allow them to. But if you look at the number, which was 58.5% of those students that were off track in kindergarten through 3rd grade in the previous year, and then were moved to on track in the 2019-20 school year. So over that year, over half the students were moved back that were off track to on track. That on the state report card normally would receive a B, a significant improvement. That alone, being one of the 6 components, would have been enough that if everything else stayed the same, would have moved the overall district report card grade from a D to a C. So this is excellent news. This is a big deal.
I also wanted to highlight with the graduation rate that Monroe Central led the way with an A grade for the 4-year graduation rate of 95.9%. So congratulations to Monroe Central. Also, the guidance counselors or school counselors have been working on a graduation tracker that will help them and be able to see where those students may be behind or not meeting what they need, their expectations to graduate, and being able to help them earlier on.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jennifer. And literally in a district of over 2,000 students, we're talking about a difference of about 7 students between a B and an A in that graduation rate. So it's definitely something to look forward to in the coming years as we make strides. And Jennifer is going to talk about where we've been and where we are now, 5-year trend data.
There has been a tremendous amount of work going on in the K-3 area, in the area of literacy. And this is where they measure the students that were not on track in 1 year to the next, coming off the not on track to being on track. In addition, one of the components of that measure is using the spring and fall testing for the 3rd grade reading guarantee. However, we only had fall data and we didn't get to test because of the spring data. But all other data that was reported is reflected in the right-hand column in 2019-20. If we were given letter grades, those are the grades that we would have received from the state. So if you look on the district, which is the top row, we would have had, with our partial data, we would have had a B with 58.50% in that area. But I also want to recognize that we went from a D in 2018-19 to a B, so that's a nice big improvement. And kudos to all of those teachers and support staff that have helped to make that happen. You can also see that most of our buildings scored a B, but Powhatan was only 8.5% away from a letter A in their improving readers at risk. And we also see a lot of momentum for the future. So we see a lot of good things happening at that K-3 literacy. Literacy has been a really big focus in the last few years. We have a lot of programs that are addressing phonics, phonemic awareness, building those foundations, because if students can't read, they're going to struggle all through school. And so that is really important to the lower grades so that we can set students up for success all the way through.
Yeah, and that's a great insight there on the progress. And as we look at Ohio report cards from across the state, you start to realize how special getting an A or a B is. That it doesn't happen that often. So that's outstanding, especially considering from just 5 years ago, as Jennifer was talking about where we've been.
So with the help of Brad pulling data in from all of the districts from the Ohio Valley Educational Service Center, he was able to show me that our district ranked 3rd overall in the K-3 literacy component with 68.8% of the students on track. And that's really key because our target is 80% and we are very close to that. This is all part of this push for early literacy and making sure that these kids have the right foundation at the beginning. We also are looking at our kindergarten teachers as a whole. They really rocked it because the students coming out of kindergarten into 1st grade in the fall take a benchmark assessment, and those students were at 82.5% on track. And Skyview also increased theirs by their on-track readers by from 24.8% to 89.5%. And Bellsville is not far behind either with a 23.7% improvement. River Elementary kindergarten had the most impressive score with a 91.7% at risk from students on track and which would have been level or letter A performance level. So congratulations to all those buildings and their hard work. Powhatan and Skyview also had the highest overall on track rating.
Yeah, that's Switzerland of Ohio is very fortunate to have some elementaries that are some of the top literacy elementaries in the entire Ohio Valley. And getting close, as Jennifer mentioned, to that 80% national standard for the first time. Of course, we want 100% of the kids on track, but for the first time they take the test, getting 80%. So just a lot of great work's been done the last few years, and it's nice to see it paying off. Okay, so we're gonna talk now. We talked about some of the positives. So now we're gonna talk about some of the areas that the data is pointing us towards where we could take next steps, where we can grow, what those needs are. So first of all, the K-3 at-risk reading component, improvement component, yes, it's one of the biggest strengths. However, it has such a heavy impact on the report card and the future success of the district. Kids need to learn to read before they could read to learn. That now that we are at a B level, we're in position to go for an A, and we could start talking about moving the entire district report card up, having the goal of moving up to a B level, which is really exciting. So as Jennifer mentioned, and she'll talk about some more, some of the things we have planned to help us move there. The DLT had a lot of great ideas. Second, for prioritized needs, now this is old data because we weren't allowed to take spring tests because of COVID and the legislature not allowing it. So 2 schools had a C 2 years ago on the report card and 6 a D. This is something with PBL, project-based learning, we're working on fixing with a number of accelerated and advanced students, trying to get more of those to bring that up. And then third item on there Jennifer, you go to the next slide, please. Is prepared for success component. And this is something that was brand new for schools on the for the Ohio report card, and this is something that takes planning, and we're really starting to do that with the grad tracker meeting last month with all the high schools and the counselors and the administration leadership. But here's the thing: you were at 34.2%. To get the next letter grade, a D, you were only 5.8% points away. Yet you had the #1 school in the entire region in the Ohio Valley in ACT remediation free scores at 27.7%, one of the top schools in Southern Ohio as far as ACT scores in River. And at Monroe Central, you had one of the highest schools in dual enrollment. In order to do well at Prepared for Success, you have to have high ACT remediation free scores. You have to have that dual enrollment piece. And then there's 2 other areas that Jennifer's going to talk about we're working on, and that is the career tech alignment to credentialing. That has to be there, and that's why the percentage is where it's at, along with scheduling for honors diplomas. And making sure in 8th and 9th grade students are aware of the path they need for one of those honors diploma pieces to increase their chances of getting into college if they want, and just give them a more rigorous academic path and to help them out. So there's some great things going on with different schools in Prepared for Success. Now the challenge is to learn from each other and put those components together in order to get that up to hopefully at least a C going forward. Jennifer is going to talk about some of the DLT ideas that they brainstormed on when they heard this same report a little bit ago. Jennifer?
So when we met with our district leadership team and looked at the data, then they broke off into groups. And they came up with some brainstorming ideas, things that would be solutions to improving our scores in those weaker areas and sustaining or improving in our stronger areas. So I'm just going to go down through the list. Better protective reading block instruction time in K and 1. So what does that reading block instruction look like? What should be included every day, every week, and really tightening that up so that we're across the board doing the same things. Better using the data that we have, improving MTSS, which is multiple tiered systems of support. Some people refer to it as RTI. Using project-based learning, PBL, with more fidelity before students reach high school. More high school credits offered in the middle school. We do have quite a few students at River High School that are accelerated into honors English and honors Algebra 1, and we have some students that are accelerated to honors Algebra 1 in 8th grade across the rest of the district as well. PSAT standard scores for sophomores. Also offering more discussion and parent meetings for ACT in college for 8th and 9th graders to get them prepared for what's coming down the road and getting them a jump start on that. And with the graduation tracker for students in high school, being able to identify those kids on track for honors diploma and making sure that they're scheduling those students for the correct classes in order to reach those honors diplomas. And just a couple years ago, the state released new honor diploma requirements and offerings. So there's a lot of different things. I know Monroe Central last year had their first arts honors diploma. So there's a lot of different options for students to excel. Also increasing dual enrollment, recruitment, and opportunities. This past year, we increased our advanced placement courses across the district, and we had a lot more students sit for the test and do well, and we expect to do even better this year. On a side note, with the pandemic and the shutdown, those students who were in AP classes last year had to do a lot of it remotely and prepare for the AP exam, and really did quite well. So we're proud of their successes as well. And so where are we now? We've got a lot of implementation of Project Lead the Way, and that's just one area that we can provide STEM. And we have a brand new program at Monroe Central, which is the practice of biomedical sciences. In the first semester, this course has been offered in a very challenging year, I would say. 9 students took the class, and the end of course exam that goes with the Project Lead the Way Biomedical Sciences. Out of those 9, 7 students scored accomplished and 2 students scored proficient. And the students who scored accomplished were now eligible to apply for a college credit through Project Lead the Way's partnership in various colleges. And all during a pandemic and the first rollout of that course at Monroe Central.
Wow, that's not easy. That's a high level, rigorous program. That's outstanding, Jennifer.
And that course is being taught by Derek Shirley, who's done phenomenal at getting that launched and providing that opportunity for the students. We also are digging even deeper into the science of reading. We're working on a lot of small groups, talking about it in our TBTs. We have our literacy coaches presenting to title teachers, reading specialists, intervention specialists, principals, anybody that will listen, and anybody and everybody. And we've got a great discussion going on. One of the things I'm super excited about announcing is that we are fortunate enough to have David Kilpatrick present to our elementary level or lower grades in March. It'll be, of course, a virtual but live PD. David Kilpatrick is the author of a book called Equipped for Reading Success. And this is a huge topic among all kinds of platforms, blogs, chats, websites, so on the science of reading. I said earlier, it was like bringing LeBron James in to talk to students about basketball, and this is like the LeBron James of reading. So we're super excited that he's going to be able to present to our staff and learn even more. Our grades K through 2 just adopted CKLA, which is Core Knowledge Language Arts. It embeds a lot of knowledge, which we are finding after reading the Knowledge Gap, that a lot of students are lacking just basic knowledge, background knowledge, which helps with their understanding as they get into advanced classes and as they expand their reading skills. We're also expanding STEM or STEAM across the district, and our dual enrollment and career tech alignment, so that students taking any of the career tech courses can align to college credit and leave the district with those college credits already in hand, rather than going on to a college and then going through the same courses. So there's a lot of exciting things happening right now, and many more to come.
This is great news, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
This is great news, and I'm just happy to say that I'm proud of our teachers and our staff that are making things happen.
Absolutely.
I'm really proud.
Jennifer, can we get a hard copy of that presentation you did?
Yes, I certainly will.
Man, it's great.
Yep.
Nice to have good.
Yep. Thank you, Jennifer and Brad, for that. For the board, one other piece of information for me to share with you. The Ohio Valley Educational Service Center was selected by the Office for the Exceptional Children for a special ed review. You will recall in 2014, you had a special education review that went on, I think, for a couple of years. We hope not to be in this review for a couple of years. We hope it's pretty short. They are focusing on our Blue Sky Virtual Academy. And of course, Switzerland participates in that. So since that special ed, you only had 9 students the first semester that were classified as students with disabilities. And the second semester, there are only 4 students in the program. And those students, I think, are all speech and language disabled. And so that's going to be a pretty narrow and pretty focused review. Larry is on top of that. He's attended the first meeting that we've had, and he'll stay on top of that, and we'll help support him through that as well. But just wanted to let you know that that review is going on. We actually will have reviewers virtually having meetings with us and with your staff. I believe it's the week of February 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. So if you hear anything out there about a special education review, it's all about the Ohio Valley ESC, but of course, our are your students. So it does involve each of the districts that have students in Blue Sky Virtual Academy. So thanks again, Brad and Jennifer. I don't have anything else. If anyone has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
Jerry, can I tell them about ours?
Hmm? Yeah.
Andy, is there anyone else has to speak yet?
No.
Okay, I was hoping that we could be face-to-face tonight with the board. Jerry and I, which are on buildings and grounds, and I know a while back we was talking about these greenhouses, and Jerry and I had the opportunity to go to Steubenville and look at their greenhouses. And while we was there, we looked at their STEM program, which was right by one of the greenhouses, and I took a lot of pictures, and I had them here tonight for each board member. I wanted them to look at the greenhouses and that, and which brings up a question. Does anyone know if Mrs. Burkhart's still going to be our grant writer since she got commissioner? Does anyone know that?
She usually gives a report.
It's not.
Yeah. What's that?
No, she is not.
She is not. Thank you, Cindy.
She's resigning? Is what they said?
Yeah, that was probably Cindy said
She
that.
did not
Cindy-
renew her contract.
Oh, okay. Cindy, their greenhouses, they got them through a grant. And we just wanted, Jerry and I was going to talk to you, see if there's some way we can't look at that grant to get help us on our greenhouses. Is that a possibility?
Which grant are you talking about? Because we have one for our greenhouses too.
This is farm
Nifty.
to school. Farm to school.
We talked about it early when I came on board.
Is that a farm to school grant?
Yeah, we talked about trying to tie it into our kitchen and trying to use our special populations to be a part of that. Yeah, we can
Okay.
approach it again.
Yeah, maybe we ought to revisit that. But I mean, their greenhouse, I got pictures here, and even their STEM classes, they got grants. And I'm sorry I lost my notes, but there's an institute in Pittsburgh that they went to visit. I mean, tell you, I just like for you to look at these pictures. What other districts are doing, and maybe we could follow suit. So I guess I could leave them here for the other board members, if that's what they'd like.
Maybe Tess could scan them in and email them out.
Yes,
Oh,
emails.
All right, yes, okay, thank you.
Let me see if I can get her to email these to them.
Yeah, I got every
Oh, they're all
board
the
member,
same?
all the same, yeah. That way, wonderful looking greenhouses. If that's it, we want to move on to consent agenda.
Yes, you may move on to the consent agenda, Ronnie.
Okay, I think Jerry went out to see if Tess would scan them pictures and send them to everybody.
Sorry, can everybody refresh? I added the item that Mrs. Smith wanted added to the agenda. So if you could refresh, you will be able to see that now. Let me know if you do not. And it should be item number 7 and 8. on executive session.
You hear that, Jerry?
No, sir.
Refresh.
Yeah, I just did.
It
Okay, we're
shows
done.
on mine, Connie.
What was that?
It's showing on mine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're down to consent agenda. Approval of consent agenda items 1 through 5. I'll read them real quick. Approval of Kiwanis donation from Monroe Central Key Club, $70. Approval of the Houghton Elementary donation from Beverly Community Impact Fund for blessings and a backpack for the 2020-21 school year, $372. Approval of Monroe Central donation from Woodsfield Savings Banks, $25. Jane and Jeff Cox, $100, and Mark and Luann Forney, $100 for Monroe Central Band, and approval of the board minutes. Is there anything in there someone wants to pull out or anything? If not, I'll accept a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Jerry, then Greg.
The voting is open.
Honey, I hit the wrong button here. Can you bring me back up? I want to vote yes.
Okay, I changed it for you.
Okay.
Mr. Gust? Mr. Gust?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes. Motion carried. Now we're down to old business. Discussion and action on youth sports in the Switzerland, Ohio local school district.
I start, Mr. Winkler.
Go ahead, Mr. Gust.
Okay.
You're on board.
It was brought to my attention that youth sports and our facilities be revisited. I've been approached about youth sports using our facilities for games, matches, and tournaments. Some of these teams raise their money by having games, matches, and tournaments. I know for a fact that some of the kids travel up to 3 hours on the weekend for games and matches. We got to ask ourselves the question, is it safer for our kids to play at home or go 3 hours away? They are not going to quit playing sports. They are having games and matches all over the state. The coaches also say that junior high, reserve, and varsity basketball are having games and matches. Why do we treat them any different? They are our kids. I have a plan to give you that the coaches prepare for a tournament that they want to have. I've talked to the coaches and they would limit the amount of people in following the rules that the high schools are following. I'm here to make a motion tonight to let the youth sports use our facilities. I'd like to hear from all the other board members.
Jerry, you said you had a plan. Did you, is that one of the things that you forwarded?
I think that Tess emailed the one for the basketball, the Woodsfield coach, Mr. Graham, I think, did she forward, she's supposed to forward that to you. And then the Bellsville wrestling coach, he forwarded me it, and I thought I had a copy of it, but I don't, so I have to send it to you, and I'll email it to you this week. And it's telling how they do their tournaments and everything, and they've been going to tournaments. I think the Bellsville youth and River youth, and I believe Woodsfield, and they know how to run these tournaments, and it's working for these other schools.
I don't think they're having them in actual school buildings, Jerry.
Aren't they? I don't know.
No, they're having them in, for lack of a better term, I think in show barns and large indoor facilities, like multi-purpose facilities. I spoke to Mr. Abrick also, and also Mr. Darren Grubb, who's running the Woodsfield Pee Wee. I think junior high, I'm not sure, with the young wrestlers from Woodsfield. And he also said they had a plan that was that mimicked these other places that they were going to. and how they could limit the number of people. My concern with the schools are, because I want the kids to participate. My concern with the schools are, we're not only dealing with a specific amount of wrestlers, we have to keep the building clean for the students at the same time. And that's where I'm kind of against the thing about the school, because we're struggling right now, and it's going crazy and passing along. And I'm not so sure that I would send my child across the state to wrestle or play basketball with everything that's going on right now. And I'm surprised that a lot of these counties are even opening to that, being that most of them or all of them are red and moving towards purple. I'm all for the kids participating. I'm not for it right this moment, though.
Okay, well, I know that junior high and varsity and reserves, they're playing games, they're going to their schools, and, you know, these are our kids too, they're using our facilities. What's the difference between the youth using them versus the other ones, as long as they follow the guidelines of the athletic director guidelines of the school?
Do you have many athletes that go to those Pee-wee wrestling tournaments?
Well, yeah, I've been to several of them, and I'll tell you,
Yeah.
but the way Mr.
Hundreds.
Abrick, yeah, if you see Mr. Abrick's plan, which I should have got it to you, I thought I had it typed up and I didn't, but he's got a plan where they're going to use both gyms at Bellsville, and there's going to be minimal people in these buildings. They're talking like 1 or 2 parents, and I don't know, there's just several things. I wish I could have invited him tonight, and he could have explained it to you a little bit better. But like I say, I just personally, and I'm not holding nothing against nobody, but if it's good for the older kids, it's good for our youth, is what I'm saying. We found a way to make it work for them. We got to find a way to make it work for the youth.
Mark, are you on here?
Yes, Greg, I'm here.
Mark and I talked about this one day last week. I just like your take on it, Mark, as far as the high school and junior high programs are concerned. That you know, you had mentioned that you had how many games scheduled, and you've only got how many games in, and compared to the other schools, are about on the same track. Could you make a comment on that, please?
Sure, yeah. We're right now, our girls are in quarantine for 2 weeks. We got out of quarantine. We were in quarantine the 1st December. I believe the Bellsville girls are currently in quarantine. The Monroe Central boys have been in quarantine. A lot of the junior highs, I know our River Junior High boys, I think, have played 1 game. The Bellsville boys, I think, have played 1 game, maybe 2. And I think I understand what Jerry's saying, but I think in the same token, when you're talking even about wrestling, all of the schools that we play, any tournament that we were going to go to, we've participated in 1 tournament. All the other ones have been canceled now. You'll get maybe 2, 3 teams, and that's about the limit for tournaments or for quads for wrestling, because they're limiting the number of even kids that are coming to a match. The biggest concern is there isn't right now. We check everybody that comes in. They're temperature checked, and I'm sure that the younger ones can do that also. But you don't have anybody to monitor those guidelines. It would be on an honor system, basically, with the youth sports when you're having a tournament and everything.
Right, because now
Plus,
the
you're going to have
director or the principal is in charge, correct, Mark?
correct. Yeah, we have to be there at all the events and everything, and monitor things and monitor masks, and we have people volunteering to monitor all those different things. It's just it's very tough to play sports right now. It's a difficult situation, and we're limited to, very few people in the stands. I think you're going to have an additional cost. I'm not sure that in speaking earlier with some of the youth league people, because they're going to have to hire janitors, they're going to have to sanitize, just the same way that we do for the games that we play. You know, the janitors go in and sanitize afterwards and everything to make sure it's ready for the next day.
Mark, one more question is what you said that the state gives you the parameters in as far as how many people based on the size of your facility, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So is that the same?
You're
for,
15%.
So is that the same for youth sports?
Well, they don't govern youth sports, so really they don't oversee those types of things. So it's not a
Okay.
set in stone for youth sports and things.
Okay, because I know talking to Mr. Abbott and Mr. Grubb about how they break down their sessions over a couple periods, couple days and periods of time in multiple facilities, like at, well, I think all of our buildings could be Bellsville, 2 gyms, Woodsfield and Monroe Central, and then River could have, you know, their 2 gyms would be spaced apart, but they're talking about doing like just 50 people at a time in the sessions, and broken up that way. And they say it's working really well. I know we kind of talked about as a district that we were going to, you know, go by our colors, for lack of a better term. And
Correct.
That's how the sports were going to run. So I'm kind of confused to that, how I know there are kids and they go to school there, but in the same sense, do we change it because it's not directly affiliated with the school and let them use the buildings? The buildings is what I'm questioning, not the kids participating.
Right. I agree with you, Greg. There's I know that Fort Fry recently held a tournament, and it was kind of unique in the way that they held it. Our kids went and participated in it, but they separated, even like wrestling, the weight classes between morning and afternoon, and basically ran only so many classes in the morning and allowed X amount of people in then that afternoon. And they had to come in between that and sanitize everything. Then that afternoon brought another group in, and basically when that was done, then they went back in and sanitized again and everything. So even, you know, our mats, we had a wrestling match the other night, and they cleaned the mats between matches and that from one team to the other. So it's kind of, that's a tough situation.
And with the numbers right now, hopefully they keep heading down. But, you know, we started out with like less than 30 active cases, and I didn't see numbers today, but the last number I saw was like 142 active cases in the county. That's just in Monroe County, not counting Belmont County in our district.
For discussion?
I want to put a motion on the floor to open the facility, youth to use them, youth sports in the district.
Jerry, I would like to see a plan, a concrete plan before I vote on it, but we can vote.
Well, I put a motion on the floor.
Bev, I'd like to see a plan.
The trouble about everything, what you was asking, it's taking time. They ain't got time. They don't have time right now.
All right.
They gotta start getting this organized if they're gonna do it. The high schools is doing it, and, you know, I can't see why we treat our youth any different.
Jerry, I have no problem with them using it if they get with the principal.
If you okay to use it, then we have to see their plans and it's gotta match the high school.
All right, I'll second the motion.
So I would like to hear the motion.
I make a motion that we let the youth sports use our facilities throughout the district
But
for sporting events
with the plan, right?
with that plan. I would say the athletic directors have to approve the plans.
Well,
They could go to each athletic director at each school.
the principal will have something to say.
Well, the
about it.
principal and athletic director would have to approve the plan. If they can get their plans approved, then I say we let them use our facilities.
And they're going to follow the same guidelines our students are following, correct?
Yes, they'd have to. Maybe even a little bit more stricter. From what I've seen, I wish I would have, I want to test the email, this one.
Well, wait, you got a motion on the
I
floor.
got a motion, you
Don't
gotta stay
leave.
here and vote. You got a
Okay,
second on
so
it?
Ronnie was our second. Here's what I have on there. Motion for youth sports to use district facilities with a plan. ADs and principals need to approve the plans. Is that good?
Sounds great.
And they gotta follow,
So it won't come back to the board after we've seen the plan? We're just approving it based on what we think that there's a plan out there?
Yeah,
That the AD and principal have to approve.
the AD and the principal would approve their plans before they can have the matches.
Per building, or are we doing this as a district?
Yeah, the district, the ADs at each schools,
Well, you're saying two
Yeah,
different
I-
things.
huh?
You're saying two different things. You're saying the ADs and principals have to approve it. I'm asking, is
Right.
it per building, or are we doing this as a whole district?
per building.
Per
What if-
building.
What if
One-
one AD says no and the other AD says yes?
Say that again, please.
Like
I
if
said,
one
what
AD
if-
says, the other says yes at the one school, then you're gonna have one school fighting against another school because the AD didn't let them use it.
I don't,
Okay,
I'm kind of with Bev. I don't really like this whole thing without, we're voting on something, we don't know what we're voting on.
basically, they're gonna follow the plan as the high school. The same plan that the high school and reserves and junior high's using, they have to follow them plans.
Who's cleaning and disinfecting after used matches and stuff?
Whoever they get, I guess.
They're gonna have to pay.
They're gonna have to pay and get somebody if they wanna use facilities. That's the plan. They gotta come up with the person to pay the janitor or whatever. They're the ones that wanna use it, and we're gonna let them, I say let them use it, and then they have to follow all the guidelines that we got set in place now.
Yeah, I think they need to pay our janitors, so it's done
Yeah.
according
Well,
to.
if they use our facilities, they're gonna have to go by the contract.
Right.
One question I have is who's going to monitor them to see if they're following the plan?
Principals,
No, the principals aren't going to be there.
But you can't ask them to be there. That's not, yeah. They're not over top of youth sports.
I think that's
Okay, yeah.
where it comes in.
What, Jerry, do you know the specific date for the Bellsville tournament?
no, I don't.
I thought he told me it wasn't until like mid
February,
to
something.
late February.
Yeah, I believe it is. Let me see here.
Mark, did you say that you look at the opposing team to decide if the game's going to be played or not, depending
Could you
on,
repeat that, Bev?
did the athletic directors look at the opposing team and the area they're coming from and like their cases? So if it's like a hot spot, the game may not be played.
No, that's not followed and hasn't been. And the inherent problem is, and I'll give you a perfect example, is I know Bellsville went and played at Toronto on a Wednesday night and then later on had a girl test positive. Toronto played us the next night, had a girl test positive the next day. So basically all of us ended up in quarantine. So it's kind of, it's really a hit and miss right now. And the only thing that I can tell you with youth sports is you won't be able to follow if they had somebody on their team that tested positive.
I would think that, that Mark and Delmas and John out in Monroe Central would want to help these kids, you know, to get this. This is our future coming up. And I think you'd want to work with these youth sports to help them be able to participate, Mark. I mean, I know it'd be like volunteering your time, but I could talk to them and maybe check in on them.
We have nothing, absolutely none of us have anything against it, and we're all for the youth sports. We know that builds our programs and everything. But at this certain time, I mean, it's just the nature of the beast for this year, unfortunately. I mean, I've got a junior high boys basketball team that I'd love seeing play 16 games, and they've played one so far. It's just something you can't control.
I guess I would like to see I know we have a motion on the floor, but I'd like to see a recommendation from our athletic council on it, because we have to have a plan that has to be followed in each of the buildings if it's going to happen.
Does the board want one drawn up?
Do you think that'd be best or no?
Yeah, they can talk to the youth coaches and draw up a plan.
And get it back
and they have to do it.
And bring it back
If they
to us.
violate it, I got the plan right here. I'm going to email it to all you as soon as we get done voting here.
Jerry, the plan that they come up with, who's going to make sure that's enforced? Like, I think that question was brought up earlier. That's
what I'm saying. Our guidance, our principals surely can donate a little time to help them, and our
Athletic director?
Yeah, athletic directors. Donate a little time and help these youths out. Make sure they're doing stuff right. I'm sure if they'd work with the coaches and set up the plan, and these coaches ain't gonna violate these.
Well, you're asking a question that you haven't asked everybody else if they will. What if they don't have the time to do that sort of thing? And that's what I'm questioning. Is I'm not against them participating, but there's a ton of parameters here that are not, there's no answer. You don't have any answers. You just want to open it up and that's it. Well, there's a lot more to just opening up. It's being aware.
I'm saying, Greg, the perimeters is what the high schools is using We're
I get
using
that,
what-
Jerry, but you're saying that the principals and athletic directors need to be in charge of it. You need to talk to the principals and athletic directors to see if they're okay with it. And I think Mark has already made his
I
comments.
think that, donate a little time to it. I mean, if they don't want to, that's fine.
If they don't want to, then the plan kind of falls apart because there's no accountability.
If they don't want to help, then we can't do it. But I say give them the right and then see what happens.
One of the problems with this whole thing is you're putting the burden on the principals and the athletic directors. I know that Mr. Moore at Bellsville has about 40 games he's rescheduled at this point. We're in the 20s now and still trying to reschedule games and get games in. We play just about every night, either boys or girls, once the girls come back. I understand that totally. I spent 40 years. I spent a number of years with youth sports, and there is absolutely nobody against youth sports. They all want to see kids play, but it's just the situation with this year is a little bit different. And the hardest thing is monitoring the whole thing.
How about this? How about if the youth sports gets with that athletic director and the principal, and if they come up with a plan and call us, and we could take a consensus of the board to let them have it.
I'm okay with that.
Okay with you, Jerry? Is
Yep.
that okay with the rest of us?
Is all right with the athletic directors and principals?
Yeah, but they got to have a plan submitted to them first.
Okay, I got the plan here. I'm gonna submit all the
Yeah,
plan here in about 5 seconds, as soon as I can get the test.
Yeah, but that's a plan you got from just Bellsville.
And Woodsville's said they got a plan.
Well, we're gonna have to see if forever wants it or what.
Yeah, Marty said that
You
he's
gotta come up with
interested.
the
He don't
uniform.
wanna have no big tournaments. He just wants to have some.
Yeah, but you
Like
gotta have a
small
universal plan at every school, you know.
Yes, and that, the universal plan is using our guidelines that we got set in place right now.
Yeah, but I want each sport to go meet with the athletic director, and I don't mind going, I want to listen to it. I don't mind going, but, the principal and that, I think he ought to just come up with a plan, and the principals then to work out athletic director, if they could say who's going to oversee it, then fine, they could have it. If they can't oversee it, then you don't have it.
Okay,
And
Is
in
that all
the
right?
plan, it should state if they violate the plan, there's no more events.
Yeah, that's
Right.
correct.
exactly.
That's kind of what we have in our practice whenever we approve the plan for the youth sports to practice. But
Yeah.
this would involve spectators and other opponents, so there needs to be more information.
Well, from what I understand, it was one wrestler, one parent, and one coach per athlete. Now, my question is, if we're going to go by the parameters of the high school and junior high athletics, that means every individual person has to be temperature checked as they walk through the door.
I agree with
And
that.
what if somebody walks through and has a temperature? You're talking about, and these guys are talking between 300 and 400 wrestlers.
Okay, how about if we use the
I'm
OA,
just saying it.
how about if we use the OAC? They control it and they only allow one parent. And there's restrictions on amount of participants. The OAC, maybe we could contact them and go with their guidelines.
Jerry, who is the OAC?
That's youth wrestling in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, I think they, like I said, I talked to Mr. Abrick, and I'm pretty sure he mentioned one parent, but you're talking about, remember, 300 wrestlers, so that's 300 parents, one coach, but they're going to have 20 or 30 or 40 wrestlers, you know, and someone's going to have to be responsible, someone, not a bunch of people, someone's going to have to check every temperature as they walk in. I'm just saying it's logistically, it's not going to be as easy as I think they think it's going to be.
And deal with
But-
them if they have a temperature.
What do they do if there's a temperature? And then you got all these people, all these kids, if it happens to be a wrestler and they've been wrestling around 20 or 30 different kids, then all those kids would have to be immediately quarantined if that kid has a fever and found out he has COVID. I'm for it, but I would love to see a plan that the athletic director and principal of the building okay first.
I'm good with that.
That's what I'm saying, Greg. I agree.
I'm good with that.
Because ultimately they're responsible. It's our buildings and we got more than just wrestlers that are going to be in there.
So can we just withdraw the
So
motion
if
for
we
now?
could, well, we can do the motion with that stipulation.
Okay,
Can't we?
all right, we'll do that.
Same motion, just add that. Connie's got a motion
Yeah.
and she can add.
Connie, you figure that all out.
Okay, so right now it's motion for youth sports to use district facilities with a plan. ADs and principals will approve the following plans, or will approve and follow the plans. What else you want added?
The ADs and principals aren't gonna follow it. They're gonna approve it.
Yeah.
So monitor then, is that a better word?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they're just going to approve it. There's gonna have to be someone in the plan to monitor it.
Yeah.
Okay, so ADs and principals will approve the plans. That's all I have on there. Is that right?
Yeah.
And there's one plan for the entire district.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
You
think
can't
so.
change per building.
So,
One plan for entire district. Okay,
the
I have that
principal-
added.
So the principals, athletic directors are gonna have to get together, all of them.
Okay, so I am opening, the voting is open. Check the motion to make sure that's what you want. Whatever you have an issue, okay, got it. Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes,
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
All right. Discussion and approval of ESC Joint Superintendent Pro Tem Shared Services Agreement.
Could we table this until after one of the executive sessions that I had for personnel is to discuss this further?
I second that to table.
We can vote on that, please. You get that, Connie?
Yeah, I'm working on it here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I just put motion to table, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Sarah's my first. Who was, Bev, were you my second?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes,
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, motion carried. Brings us down to new business. Discussion and approval of the memorandum of understanding for parents selected remote learning for 2020, 2021.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Bev
Yes.
made the motion, Terry seconded.
Okay, motion, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes. Now we're down to discussion on the first reading on policies catch-up agreement. Now, do all these take, motion tonight or anything? Action? This is the first reading?
No, it's just the first reading, correct?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I didn't think it'd take any action unless someone had something. Is it all right to move on?
Yes, you can move on, Ronnie.
All right, thank you. Now we're down to discussion and possible action on working from home. Someone will have to explain that to me.
Yeah, who put that in there? Nasty.
I put it on there, guys, because we've mentioned it like when central office staff is working from home and we have to approve when our teachers, go remote. So I just wanted to bring it up so that we could discuss it. There might be two parts to it, if we use central office staff as an example, or even me or Rob, if they want to work from home, if they feel that, working really is necessary, then, do they just do that? Do they just go home and say, report it away? Is there any accountability? I just wanted to talk about it. I don't know that we need a policy because a policy might be too stiff, but maybe a procedure or an outline of what the proper protocol is, and when they do work from home, do they do a work log? Do they,
Correct.
Well-
We approved the union employees that apply for remote work. So I would think it would apply the same, and there could be multiple situations because they're in quarantine. We don't really approve those because they can't come to school, but if they have health concerns or if they can't social distance, right now we are on hybrid, so the schools can social distance. So, I would think we would approve the same thing if there were situations where they couldn't social distance, in other buildings as well.
Well, Bev, the only trouble I had with this before is we didn't know who was working out here and who wasn't. No one seemed to
Right,
know
that's
where.
why I thought if we're approving union employees to work remotely, we should do the same for administration. Unless it's like quarantine where they can't come to work, then they have to work remotely. If they, if that's possible.
Well, I know we're getting a lot of requests from different people to work at home remote. And I mean, what happens if everyone wants to work at home remote?
But everybody that has gone remote, haven't they had a doctor's slip stating that the recommendation of their doctor was to stay at home?
They should have, Greg.
Yeah, and it wasn't just for fear, it was for a legitimate health issue that the doctor recommended that they work remote during this time. So I guess what I'm saying is, based on what you just said, what if everybody wants to go remote? Well, that would be up to us whether we say go remote or they have to be in school. It wouldn't be their
Well,
choice.
did you look on anything we're approving tonight, Greg?
For the,
Remote?
I mean, down in the
Uh,
personal?
Yeah.
No, I have not looked at that.
Oh, I did, but I didn't see the doctor slip. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I had a whole list of things tonight, but I'm not gonna waste all the time. I'll just get it printed off to let you guys see them. Do we wanna try to come up with something next meeting or what?
Yeah, ask some questions and stuff. I don't know. Connie, is there any rhyme or reason to when a central office person works remotely? Like, were you guys recently needed to work from home because you needed to quarantine at central office?
Yes, there was a quarantine of some of us. We had, I don't know the number, 4 or 5 positive cases within the last week and a half in our central office. So there were a lot out with positives. There were some quarantined. I know as far as my office, I told my staff sits beside one another on top of each other. So I told them that they do shift work when they come in, not all there at one time. They do what they need to do, work from home, just to get the job done. Because if I wipe out my whole department, we're going to be in trouble. And we do sit next to each other, and they're using the same copier and things like that. So I did tell my staff to do that the last 2 weeks because we had a lot of positive cases in there.
Okay, so that was more.
You cut out.
That was more of a directive from you. Like, you instructed them to do that. You knew who was doing it and how long they would do it. And
Yes, next week we will be back to normal every day. Unless something else happens, hopefully not before the weekend.
Have you been logging it, Connie, what the people, your employees is doing, what they're working and their hours and everything?
They're telling me when they're in there. When I need them, if I send them an email or a call, they're always there answering. So I do know what they're doing. I don't have a log. We could do that. But I do know when they're working or when they're not working, and if their job's not getting done, I know it.
That was one brought up with Rob whenever half the office in here was on working from home. Nobody was in here hardly but the secretaries, and we told him that you should log all their daily work, what they're doing. They should be filling out a form and sending it to you, telling you what they did for their day. That's what we told Rob to do with his department, if you remember.
No, Jerry, I was not in that executive session. I was not part of that discussion.
Executive session, I think we told him.
I was not involved in that.
Okay.
Jerry, my experience with folks working from home and at my staff, I have several staff members who work more from home than they do from the office. And what I have found is that they are more productive at home and they actually work longer. And in my own quarantine, I work till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, whereas if I'm at the office, I generally shut things down at 4 or 5 o'clock, go home. I may pick that back up and do some more work, but literally, I'm down here in my space by 6:30 or 7 at the very latest, and then, break a little bit for lunch, maybe for dinner, and then I'm back at it. And so My experience with my own people is that they are just as productive, if not more, and they actually work longer. It's a matter of trust, and Connie has to trust her people. Rob has to trust his people, that if they feel unsafe in coming to the office because of the closeness of the office, then working from home should be an option. And we just have to trust that people are getting the job done. If we find they're not, then we make sure that they're in the office doing their work.
We got our kids in the schools, Andy. We got our teachers, our principals, everything. They're in there every day. But yet you're saying that our administrative team should sit at home and work? I don't think so. If you're not sick and if you're not quarantined, then you ought to be at work.
I would agree with that, Jerry, except your buildings are only half. So you're doing a hybrid right now. So you only have half of your students, plus your room sizes at your buildings are large enough that you can do social distancing. Your main office is pretty tight quarters, and just travel around and about, you would be in close proximity to folks as you moved around. So that's just my opinion. But I know what you're saying, and I agree with that. But yet, right now you're on a hybrid, and so you only have half of your students there. Plus, you have a group of students that are doing remote learning as well.
I sat in negotiations last week out at Swiss Hills. There's 4 beautiful rooms out there. Now, if we're having problems in here, then let's move some of them out there in them beautiful rooms that we spent money on and put some offices out there. Adult education's going nowhere. Let's take and utilize them buildings out there. There's 4 beautiful rooms. We could have 4 different offices out there. That's something this board needs to look into. If that's the problem about keeping people to work, if we have to move some of the offices out there, then we need to look into it.
That's certainly a possibility.
We can move on, Ronnie. I just wanted to get.
I was just going to ask if any more discussion. Let's go on. How about approval of December finances?
I make a motion to postpone until the next meeting, next regular meeting.
What's
A
that?
second.
I make a motion to postpone the approval of the December financials until the February regular meeting.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
And we have a second, right? Sarah, seconded it? Did you get that, Connie?
Yes, I'm making notes.
Okay.
Sarah, you are my second, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, motion carried. Connie, do we have any public participation tonight?
I do not have any at this time, Ronnie.
Okay, I'd like to ask the board at our next meeting if we can move public participation up to the first of the meeting. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, it used to be that.
That's the way it always was before.
It was before the superintendent's report.
Yeah, right before superintendent's report. Yes, sir. All right. Now I need a motion to adjourn into executive session for preparing, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, let the record reflect that we're going to.
Here in about 5 seconds, you'll be back live on Zoom.
Thank you,
Okay, you're
Jess.
live. Mhm.
Ready? I'd like to call this meeting back to order in open session at 8:20. And I need a motion to go into next executive session for adjourning to executive session for preparing and conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. Is there a motion that?
So moved.
Second.
Bev, then Sarah. Did you?
Sorry, I was muted. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, motion carried. Let the record reflect at 8:21, we're going to our second executive session.
You gotta make a motion that we wanna settle the grievance and then put the motion on the floor is what Ronnie's saying. He's been around here longer than any of us, so that's why I asked him. Does that make sense? I can't hear you.
Okay, you guys are good.
You ready?
We're ready.
I'd like to bring this meeting back to order at 9:45. Now, we gotta go in executive session for, consideration of employment or dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. Is there a motion to that?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Who do you want in the executive session?
Voting is open. Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson, Mrs. Anderson. Bev, you're muted.
Yes. Sorry.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes.
Probably the same people as in the last executive session, right?
You're good.
I do it all the time. Let's call this meeting back to order at 10:10 in open session. Now we need a motion to get adjourned to executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I'll go tell her. We're back in exec.
Yeah. I'll vote for
Mrs.
it.
Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yeah.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, an open session at 10:45. I'd like to go back to the old business number 2, which is approval of ESC Joint Superintendent Pro Tem Shared Service and Agreement. I need a motion to postpone that, please, till the next meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Gary Gus, make second.
Full business number 2.
Okay, so Ronnie, you were first, right?
Jerry was, but that's all right.
Jerry, okay, so who was the second?
Bev.
Bev,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Okay, voting is open. Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, we're down to personnel, we're down to administration. Motion on it.
Make a motion, we accept this contract.
I'll second the
second.
motion.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, we're down to certificated. Need a motion on that?
I make a motion to approve certificated.
I'll second.
Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
No, we're down to class. I'd like to pull out, the Swiss Hills Career Center night cleaning person until the next meeting, postponed until the next meeting to find out more about it. And then, I'd like to pull the Lori Gardner Oaksy grievance out. We,
Ron, do we need that as two motions?
yes,
I'll second your motion to pull the Swiss Hills cleaning person till next meeting.
postpone it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd say grievance.
What's that?
Okay, so motion to postpone. Motion to postpone. Okay, so motion to postpone Swiss Hills night cleaning person until next meeting, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
Bev, you are my second, right?
Yes.
Okay, voting is open for that. Mr. Winkler,
yes,
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
okay, now I need a motion to, settle the Oaksy grievance at Lori Gardner as negotiated.
So moved.
Second.
Ronnie, can you repeat your motion again? I'm sorry.
Make a motion to, grant Lori Gardner's Oaksy grievance as negotiated.
Okay,
Abstain.
okay, voting is open. Mr. Winkler,
Yes,
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
we're down to supplementals, and, I'd like to,
Ron, we need to finish the other classifieds.
oh, I'm sorry, yes, thank you very much. Okay, now I need a motion to accept the rest of the classified.
So moved.
So
Second.
moved.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Winkler,
Yes,
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
did Mrs. Smith vote,
Miss
Connie?
Smith, did you vote?
I voted yes. I
Okay,
responded.
I couldn't
Okay.
hear.
I didn't hear you.
Sorry.
I didn't,
No, you're fine. Thanks.
Okay, I need a motion to rescind, rescind the letter of Bill Fox as Belleville head football coach out, and vote on this separate, please.
So moved. So moved.
Jerry Gus made the motion, I'll second it.
Voting is open. Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Motion
gotcha.
carried. Okay, motion carried. Now, the rest of the supplementals, I need a motion to accept the rest of the supplementals, please.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Bev, then Jerry.
Okay, voting is open. Whoops. Now it is. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Gust, Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes, motion carried. Now I need a motion on Bill Fox's letter of resignation.
We did that, didn't we?
No, we didn't. We just pulled it out there. Now we need a vote on it. I need a motion. Hearing no motion, it dies for lack of a motion. Now we're down to substitutes. Need a motion to accept the substitutes.
So moved.
I'll second. Jerry made it, I second it.
Okay, voting is open. Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Need a motion to approve the volunteers.
I just wanted to mention that the letter on that attachment has more names than board docs does. I don't know if you guys noticed that. I just wanted to call your attention to it.
Which one? The substitutes or volunteers?
Volunteers. Click on the attachment and you'll see more. There's boys track, girls track, baseball head coach.
That was also on the last one, for
Those are under
supplementals.
supplements. Paid
Well,
coaches are under
on-
supplementals, volunteers are under volunteers.
Yeah. I'll make a motion, we accept.
Second.
Okay, voting is open. Bev, is your box not popping up?
Yeah, there is one additional volunteer that was on there. They may have just missed it whenever they typed it on here, but it took a little while for it to pop up.
Okay, got it. Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mr. Gust,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes,
Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Motion adjourned.
so moved.
Second.
Voting is open. Mrs. Anderson,
Yes,
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Gust, Mr. Gust,
He said, yeah.
yes? Okay. Mr. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
Meeting adjourned.